Welcome to Zscaler Pulse, a 15-minute discussion around all things Zscaler, Zero Trust, and cybersecurity industry. Hi, I'm Ben Garrison, and I'm joined by my co-host Huxley Dunsany. How you doing, Huxley?
I am good. I'm good. And I am super excited that we get to welcome Phil T to Zscaler Pulse. Thank you so much, Phil, for joining us.
I'm
Oh,
really
it's my
happy I got
pleasure.
through the intro.
It can be an uphill battle
It took
sometimes.
it took Zscaler, Zero Trust, and I kept saying Zyber. I don't
It happens.
know.
It's a new tongue twister.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
One for the
Say,
kids.
say that 3 times fast. Zscaler, Zero Trust, cybersecurity. Like this.
Step aside, Peter Piper.
Goodness
Yeah.
gracious. That was
Well,
great.
anyhow, Phil, thank you again for joining us. And I'll just kind of get things started here with a starter question. But you joined us earlier this year. You're relatively recent to Zscaler. You joined us as our Executive Vice President and Head of AI Innovations, which is about as hot a topic as you can find in cyber world these days. And, thinking about this conversation before we came in, it really kind of stood out to me how quickly AI and AI powered tools have become a part of all of our lives and all of our work. Like it feels like almost overnight. And I'm just wondering, given your background and your interests and your skills, you, I imagine, would have had opportunities to work at a lot of different places across different industry verticals. So, what was it about AI and Zscaler that really drew you to this role?
So probably the first thing to say is that I've been working in AI for a long time now. So I think some people describe what I've done as being a serial entrepreneur. I've started a lot of companies, some of which have done quite well. I mean, Micromuse went public, Riversoft went public, and I'd largely spent most of my career um, on the other side of the hall from security in IT operations. But for about the last 20 years, very specifically, using AI and AI techniques to try and understand, what's in the operational log data. So most of the source of the monitoring telemetry is some form of log or other,
Mhm.
which, has got some information in it that you need to surface up to somebody to take, timely action to keep the show on the road, so to speak.
Hmm.
And AI is one of these. It's another example in this industry. I mean, it's always the way. It's the overnight change that's been brewing for 40 years or 50 years, right? I mean,
Yeah.
AI has been around a long time. Um, but what got me really interested in Zscaler about probably 6 months now, I started having a discussion with Jay, and we have a mutual friend who introduced us, and what became really apparent very early on is Zscaler is in a unique position in the market with a unique data asset that, quite frankly, I was jealous of.
Hmm.
The hundreds and thousands of billions of log messages that get accumulated daily, the 50 odd million endpoints that are streaming data to us, the 500 billion all this stuff that's on my background here. It is an amazing data asset, and if you're in AI, and I guess very specifically, a lot of people conflate these days AI with generative AI. So
Mhm.
the natural language processing stuff that's kind of kicked off from GPT-1 in 2017, and the transformer revolution. Data is a currency. It's gold. It's
Mhm.
oil, it's whatever extractive metaphor you want to use for it. And we've got this incredible asset. Can we put together the expertise that I've built in the data asset that we have here at Zscaler and do something really special? The short answer, the spoiler, if you will, is absolutely we can. And as the conversation continued, it was a no-brainer, so to speak, to grasp the opportunity with two hands and leap in here. And it's been 3 months and a little bit that feels like 3 years. People tell me
Mhm.
that's Zscaler time. Uh,
Yeah.
and we've been crazily building a team, working on building a prototype that is essentially putting an AI layer on top of our log data to allow people to talk to it. I hesitate from saying a co-pilot because there's a lot of co-pilots out there. And I don't like, the in a way, the analogy of Chat GPT for SecOps, because I think the opportunity is both that and then some.
Hmm.
But there's also other places we can take it, and I kind of don't want to tie the vision down too early. But the podcast is very timely because today we're doing the first proper end-to-end integration of the prototype that we've built in the 3 months that the group has been in existence. Which, by the way, for half of that time was just me and Claudio. So
Hmm.
we built a team as well as at the same time, and it's been a phenomenally exciting first quarter with the company.
It certainly feels like you're at the right place at the right time, solving the right kind of problems.
I'm gonna need Phil. I'm gonna need you to go ahead and prove to me that you're not an AI yourself.
Um, what do you want me to hallucinate? Or hallucinate? It's
Which
funny.
of these pictures is a crosswalk?
There you go. It's funny because what somebody said to me, a guy called Anil Seth, who's he's a quite a well-known researcher on consciousness and AI.
Mhm.
The most interesting thing about generative AI is that it hallucinates.
Mm.
That's the
It
that
hallucinates.
yeah, yeah. That it makes things up, it lies, it makes
Oh
mistakes,
yeah, yeah,
it sort of, it does all kinds of weird stuff, which is perhaps a more human characteristic than
Yeah,
we like to admit. Uh,
yeah.
that's interesting. Yeah.
Well, you
When
know how our brains interpret the world, right? And just makes the image that the brain thinks that it's seeing through the eyes often. And I think for AI to also kind of simulate that to a certain extent is remarkable.
Well, I mean, we can't get ahead of ourselves, but if we're going to do that, consciousness thing, I might need a drink before we get into it. But I mean, the opinions on Gen AI range
Yeah.
from, the robots are going to kill us to, I think Claudio describes it as, just a very expensive parrot.
Yeah.
mm,
And
Yeah.
and the truth of it is it's all of that and none of that at the same time. I mean, it's
Mhm.
clearly a massive advance and an
Right.
incredibly useful tool. Um, but I like to think that there's something more going on in human intelligence than just sequence prediction, which is really what a large language model does. And the other observation is that I can't remember off the top of my head. Is it zero point 0.1 megawatt hours per query or something? But we come up with pretty smart answers to questions with this thing running on 4 watts.
Yeah.
mm,
Yeah.
Mhm.
So it's doing
yeah.
So no Skynet anytime soon, basically, is
At
what you're getting
least not
at.
with a Zscaler logo on it, hopefully. You
It'll
know,
always have to be John Connor. I'm quite.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
besides the ever encroaching or threat of Skynet, what other challenges do you see people facing right now, whether it be customers or just in the AI space?
Yeah.
Do you see those challenges changing quickly,
Yeah, I do.
or are they playing whack-a-mole with it, or is it kind of a common theme?
I think it sort of creates a whole new landscape of threats
Mhm.
and ethical and compliance and it's changed the world so everything changes. And as much as Gen AI is a tool for us, so we're the good guys, right? Zscaler are the good guys. We're trying to keep the bad actors out of people's environments and keep them safe. But the bad guys are also using Gen AI. And using it, I mean, I don't know if you've seen some of the more recent phishing attacks, but they're getting really good,
Yeah.
really, really good. And there's a whole science in, detecting, the generatively built phishing attacks, and in its own right, everything from malicious prompt injection, hijacking. I mean, it's all evolving and evolving very
Mhm.
rapidly and demanding of us as a security vendor, as a cyber company, to, as it has always been, let's be honest, try and move faster than the bad actors,
Mhm.
to maintain, the edge in what is, a continual cat and mouse game with it. But I mean, the
Mm.
good news is that, and again, another one, to almost back to the question, why join Zscaler? Another one of the immensely attractive things about this company from the outside, and I'm now an insider, is both, the quality of the team and the quality of the leadership is incredibly impressive. And
Mm.
and if any organization is in a position to maintain and extend leadership in the cyberspace, it's here. It's the Zscaler. It's a special place.
Mm. Can't
Yeah.
argue with you there.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
100% agree. For sure.
yeah, and like I'm thinking, especially for the younger folks in our audience, they may not know, but like, you've been around this space for a while, you may remember these days, but the word hacker originally was almost a compliment. It was a way of acknowledging a programmer's skill in hacking their code down to the bare minimum and saving resources. And then in the 90s and early 2000s, it started to take on a much different tenor of negativity and
Yeah.
illegal activities. And then there was the rise of script kiddies who were wannabe hackers who could get things done, but mostly just by using other people's code to sort of pretend to know what they were doing. And now we have generative AI tools that theoretically allow somebody with very little or no technical skill to potentially have really immense success as a negative style hacker. And that's a really significant shift in the whole security landscape. So we need new ways to deal with it.
Very true. Well, I'm old enough to remember when it was a badge of pride to be described as dangerous if you were a software
Mm,
engineer
Yeah.
in this industry. But you know what it is, though, don't you? I mean, it's just the continual attempt by, the kids who are probably not cool at school to be cool, right? I mean, I know I wasn't cool at
I
school.
wouldn't know anything about that.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, oh yeah, I'm dangerous. Yeah, don't mess
Yeah,
with me. It's yeah. It is kind of funny, really, when you start to go into the kind of the ancient etymology of our industry. And
yeah.
the thing is that here I am. I'm in HQ today, in Silicon Valley in San Jose. I remember the first time I came to Silicon Valley 30 years ago, I hate to say, when Tasman Drive was a dirt track. I remember cycling down it. And
Wow.
I mean, it is, it's crazy. I mean, the pace of change,
Yeah.
what has been built over the last 30 years is just amazing. And Gen AI is just the latest in
Yeah.
kind of incredible revolutions that appear to strike this part of planet Earth once every decade, maybe something in that kind of ballpark that completely changes the game, and it's happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well
And I
said.
think you've touched on a couple things. And I remember I talked to a while back, I was speaking with Rohit and a few other
Mhm.
people with DLP and risk and those types of things, right? And you start thinking about, well, how we integrated AI into the ability for us to identify, or at least give our admins the ability to identify root cause of not only a troubleshooting type situation, but potentially even a security risk. And we talked in great detail more about the troubleshooting and getting to that root
Mhm.
cause analysis really fast. What about from like a security or from a SecOps perspective? What are just some of the just top level recap of tools that are available for a SecOps person to identify security threats in their organization?
Yeah, and this is probably where our team and our initiative really comes into play because that's what we're looking at. Back to the log data. So, in the various logs, and we collect a lot of different logs at Zscaler. So, and some of this is, the company's 17 years old, products have evolved over, organically over a good chunk of time. So, the way in which ZIA generates logs is different to the way in which ZPA generates logs, and so on and so on
Mhm.
and so forth. So we've got, maybe a dozen different formats across multiple different locations, and all occurring at a massive data rate. And to kind of give you an example, you can't do this maths formally because it's actually incorrect to talk about an average customer when you talk about
Mhm.
distribution of event rates because it's scale free. But there's if you just do the stupid divide the total by the number approach, an average customer as Zscaler sends us 11,000 log messages a second. Okay. And there are
Yikes.
and like I say, it's long tail. So there are customers that are sending us millions, and some that don't send us very much. But it's kind of the average about 11,000. buried in that data are the vital indicators of not just what's going on, but why the what's going on went on,
Hmm.
and how you debug it. I mean, even thinking about it just in a completely different way, which is like it's like debugging code, right?
Right.
It's that one clue that you finally stumble on it. You go,
Hmm.
that's why I was an idiot. And you go fix the problem and all goes well. It's exactly the same with SecOps and for that matter, DevOps is getting to that data. Now, the limitations of the forwarded, human brain is our ability, if you like, our data bus, our ability to look across large
Hmm.
swathes of data and be able to do pattern analysis, if you
Yeah.
will, across that landscape of data. And that's really where AI comes in for us. And it's a massive collection of techniques. It's not just Gen AI. It's also lots of machine learning, to look for anomalies, to densify the data, to enrich in the information content of the logs, to put it in a place where generative AI can deal with it. And maybe another way of thinking about it is go back to that 11,000 log messages a second. So you're dealing with a latency of, milliseconds and less. The very, very best of the generative models can, kick out, a few hundred tokens a second. Can give you a latency of, to first token of maybe a second or so on a decently complex query. That is 5 orders of magnitude out. It's not going to cope. You can't
Right.
train a model on, a dynamic data set, because you'd be continually training it. That's just unfeasibly expensive for every variety. So you have to do some very smart things to bring the tool and the resource of the data together. But the promise of what we're seeing and where we think this can go is to automate that surveillance, automate that ability to provide root cause. And if we get it right, um, the opportunity is to essentially obsolete the kind of the log analytics approach to
Yeah.
to diagnosing these things. I mean, the idea that somebody sits in front of a I don't know, Splunk or Elastic or whatever your perfect choice of tool is and queries until done sort of feels very sort of old
Mhm.
fashioned, you know.
Like a while loop that just never ends.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. There's got to be a better way to use those human brains.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is well, actually, here you go. There's a sociological context with this, and I'm sure you've all heard the tripe, of AI is not going to take your job. Somebody who knows how to use AI is, and there's some truth in that. But it's definitely up leveling or putting in place the instant command sort of focus, so that somebody who is a cybersecurity professional, a SecOps professional, spends less time gathering the data and more time acting on it and communicating about it and use
Hmm.
their soft skills. The most important thing you don't learn in medical school is how to get somebody comfortable with the diagnosis,
Mm.
the human side of medicine.
Right.
You spend a lot of time, learning about. I'm not a doctor, by a medical doctor at least. I'm just talking raw. They
Sure.
spend a lot of time, sort of learning the fact space of medicine.
Right.
When in fact, actually, the most important skill a medical professional has is dealing with the human side of, what can obviously be very stressful situations. And I see the same thing in SecOps and DevOps, which, we're liberating people from the grunt work that takes them away from dealing with the more important soft skills and instant command side of things, to deal with the inevitable cyber attacks that companies have to face.
Yeah.
Mm.
That's
Man,
awesome.
I really appreciate your perspective on this stuff.
That's amazing. Okay, so right before we leave, before we go, Commodore 64, BBC Micro, or Amiga?
I
So,
did my homework. You're a kid growing up in the UK in the 80s and 90s. I figured it had to be something in that range.
so I had a Commodore 64 and I loved it.
Okay.
Um, Actually, the first computer I programmed on, it didn't come up in your list, was a ZX Spectrum, 48K memory, and that actually was a better computer.
That was
And
a Sinclair, is that right?
that's the Clive Sinclair.
Nice.
And of course, he was our Steve Jobs, uh,
Right.
Bill Gates all rolled into one until he invented the electric car. Funny that, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's come full circle. But there's a fascinating story. So there's a guy called Herman Hauser who went on to be one of the early players in ARM Holdings. So that
Mm.
sort of Cambridge Silicon Venset that was involved with Clive Sinclair. There's a fantastic docudrama on it. And he was undoubtedly a genius, but unfortunately fell for the the very British disease of great at coming up with ideas, useless at turning that into a real commercial enterprise. So
Mm.
there you go. But that's
Well,
pretty sort of I have a whole shtick on the relationship between America and the United Kingdom being very similar to the Roman Empire and the Greek Empire. And by the way, I carry both passports and have
We'll have to we'll have
so
to bring you back on. We can have a 15
yeah,
minute conversation on that.
I'll look forward to it. And I'll bring my Commodore 64 to HQ next time I head down.
love it. There's a whole
Awesome.
whole thing now in sort of retro compute, right?
Or the Apple One, if you can get your hands on one of those.
Apple II is my first one.
Yeah, okay.
Same.
Well, thanks so
Awesome.
much, Phil. I appreciate it. Huxley, again, always it's a pleasure. Any last parting words before we call it a wrap it up? Call it a wrap? Nope. Okay, great.
Long live the Commodore 64.
We're gonna make that it's gonna be a meme now. All
I
right.
can't wait.
Well, all right. Thanks, everyone, and we'll see you in the community. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye, everybody.